Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a good, lovely evening. I'm your host, AJP, and today you guys get the monkey. Why? Because I'm fucking cooked, guys. Okay, I have decided to procrastinate and not study for my exams happening either tomorrow or next week. If it's happening tomorrow, chat, I am so cooked. Like, not even my respiratory therapy degree is gonna save me from this anatomy exam. Okay, so first things first,
Guys, just to let you know that I have a Patreon.
Nice.
If you are interested in supporting me, head on over to patreon.com and subscribe for some exclusive content.
first, hopefully it won't be too daunting. We're gonna try to actually what is to be reviewed at the exam, because we already did. We had like a written homework that we had to give in, that we had to do at home on the respiratory system and a little bit about infectious diseases, but mostly about the respiratory system. So, with that being said, what is going to be seen at the exam is going to be cardiac, so the heart. There's going to be the digestive system, the renal system, the renal and urinary system. I'm sorry, guys. And finally, the neurologic system. No, we did not go through the reproductive system at all, or the endocrine system, or the musculoskeletal system. We just went through the main ones, I guess. Without further ado, let's begin with one of these systems that we saw on, I believe it was the fourth week. I think it was the fourth week, which is the cardiovascular system. So, starting things off with the pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation of the heart. Systemic circulation, if I can just kind of like resume everything altogether. Basically, systemic circulation is everything that is around the body. Pulmonary circulation is something exclusive to the lungs, is the circulation that is exclusive to the lungs. Of course, we all know, or actually I know, for you non-Scientologists out there, that the heart circulatory system are separate. What does that mean? So it's two distinct separate systems, meaning that the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation do not mix together. Okay, there are two separate circulations. That's why they're called closed systems. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a little bit of how I remember. Let's get into the answer cheat sheet that I made up. That I actually, no, not even, that a colleague of mine made up. He's also an RT and he's also studying nursing, such as I am. We made a bet, right? I made a bet with bro, and I bet bro that I will not get into nursing, but we ended up doing it, and now we kind of just bet on the fact that we will not finish the program, and we're just doing this for the Ohio Gats of it. So pulmonary circulation. Oh my God, it is written so small in here, guys. Let me just see this. And also the lighting in my apartment right now is so horrible. Let's see. The blood from the right side goes through the alveoli. Okay, so we're starting out with the pulmonary circulation, FYI. So blood from the right side of the heart is directed to the pulmonary alveoli. That's how it's written in the book. Okay, I am not I am quote unquote quoting from the McKinley, and this picture is actually taken from one of the McKinleys. Is directed to the alveoli of the lungs, in which there is gas exchange being produced. They return back to the heart by the left side. So from the right ventricle goes into the pulmonary circulation, gas exchange occurs, blood gets oxygenated, goes back into the left side atrium, into the left ventricle and then pulses into the systemic circulation. So a few things happening here in the pulmonary circulation before we just kind of go through the systemic one. There's actually 9 steps that the McKinley kind of just describes, basically. So the circuit of the blood, I'm calling it circuit. The traveling of the blood in the pulmonary circulation starts off with step 1. So the vena cavas, so superior and inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinuses bring non-oxygenated blood to the heart via the right atrium. All right. Blood goes from the right atrium, passes through the auriculoventricular valve, the right valve, the right AV valve, or as you guys might know it in English as the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve, okay? I don't know why the McKinley is trying to get all fancy saying auriculoventricular. It's the tricuspid valve. So passes the tricuspid valve into the right ventricles, then gets pumped into the pulmonary circulation, has to pass the pulmonary sigmoid valve, and it is passed through the lungs. This is how it's written, okay? Il est acheminé vers les poumons en circulant dans les artères pulmonaires droite et gauche. And mind you, I am translating in real time, guys. Chat, I am translating in real time in English. So it passes into the lungs, so towards the lungs, actually, sorry. Passes towards the lungs by circulating in the pulmonary arteries right and left. So from the right side to the left side. Gas exchange occurs in the capillaries in both lungs. And then blood enriched with oxygen leaves the lungs and directs itself towards the heart by taking the pulmonary veins, the right and left veins. Okay. Blood arrives into the heart by the left ventricle. So these are the 9 steps. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet. So basically, deoxygenated blood comes from the superior, inferior, and coronary sinuses into the right atrium. Right atrium pushes, passing the tricuspid valve, deoxygenated blood into the right ventricles. From the right ventricles, all the way passes the sigmoid, the pulmonary sigmoid valves into the pulmonary circulation. Inside of the pulmonary circulation, deoxygenated blood passes from the pulmonary arteries to the pulmonary capillaries. Gas exchange occurs from the lungs into the capillaries. Blood gets reoxygenated and then passes into the pulmonary veins, back into the left side of the atriums. So that was pretty self-explanatory, and I think I pretty much made it a lot better than what the McKinley made it sound like. So now we go into the systemic circulation. So I spoke about pulmonary circulation. That took about 10 minutes to explain. Let's go directly to systemic circulation. So systemic circulation, it says here, from the left side of the heart, makes the blood travel by towards the ventricle. The ventricle then pushes and transports du cœur gauche. Le sang propulsé par le ventricule transporte, entre autres, okay. So blood basically transports into the systemic circulation nutrients, gas, respiratory gases such as oxygen, towards the cells in order to perform intrinsic cellular respiration. Aux cellules des tissus et des organes, and towards the organs, and then goes back towards the heart, but taking the right side. So think of it as a highway, basically. And the McKinley, again, there are 9 steps for the systemic circulation, starting with where we left off, where rich oxygenated blood comes into the left atrium. It then passes, again, it says auriculoventricular valve, the left auricular ventricular valve, but I'm going to call it the mitral valve. Bicuspid, I think some people say bicuspid, but I know Americans say mitral valve. Oh yeah, oh damn, look at those teeth. Yeah, this monkey emoji does not have an actual like mewing mog. And unfortunately, since Apple made it, I unfortunately cannot practice my mog maxing. So, okay, so mitral valve into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, the contraction from the left ventricle, blood passes the left sigmoid valve into the artery, into the aorta, and then into the systemic circulation. So then it says it travels. It gets propulsed into the aorta, and then travels in the systemic arteries. Goes to the capillaries and organs and tissues where intrinsic gas exchange occurs. And also, so basically, arteries go and give blood to the tissues. Once the tissues receive that, cellular respiration and whatnot, and then bring you back a bunch of trash, right? And what metabolic trash. Metabolic trash, that's what they're explaining here, occurs. Now basically you have blood that is deoxygenated, so with low levels of O2, directs itself towards the heart by taking the veins of the systemic veins, and eventually end up in the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava and the coronary sinuses, and then achieves itself into the right side of the heart. So that is systemic and pulmonary circulation. I'm not going to go over like all the steps. I know I did a pretty good resume of the whole systemic circulation. That was kind of a good refresher. Now we're on to the cardiac cycles. What is a cardiac cycle? Doesn't explain here. My guy never actually explained what a cardiac cycle is. So it's actually, the cardiac cycle basically is, I wouldn't say the time, but it's basically the events that lead up to a contraction that or that compose themselves of a contraction and a I don't want to say dilation. I'm trying to find the English word for it. A contraction and relaxation. There we go. So it's the events that encumber contraction and relaxation, and they happen in 5 steps. I'll try to make sure that that's what the McKinley says about the cardiac cycle, but my guy never actually put Broski never actually put the definition of the cardiac cycle. So the McKinley starts with step 1. I'm not sure how other people who did these biology classes remember the starting point of the cardiac cycle, but you could start it off at basically any number within the cycle because it's just going to do a loop. So step one here, it starts off with general diastole. So general diastole meaning general relaxation of the heart, and the beginning of which means the beginning of the ventricular filling. So if you guys remember, your diastole always represents the amount that the heart gets filled up, the pressure of the heart when it gets filled up. So that's why you never want it to be that low. I had to drink a little bit of Pepsi this time. It's not secret juice. Oh my god. And what happens here? Well, I'm guessing the pressures in the atrium are greater than the pressures in the ventricles. That's why your ventricles are starting to get filled up. The from what I can see, both sigmoid valves are closed, and so both sigmoid valves are closed, and the tricuspid and mitral valve are open. That's why the ventricular filling is beginning to happen. So what does it say? What does the McKinley say? So cavities. So atria's relaxed, the ventricles relaxed. Okay. Ventricular pressure is less than the pressure of the atria. So atrias are greater than the ventricle at this point. So like I said, and the ventricular pressure is less than the pressure in the arterial trunk. Arterial trunk meaning the pulmonary trunk, because if not, it would have said aorta. Valves, mitral and tricuspid open. I got that right. And sigmoid valves are closed. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna have to go that deep because I saw the teachers like curriculum for the exam, and it's on their version of Moodle. I'm just trying to get a refresher here, and then it goes on to step 2. Moving on, it is the atrial systole, and the end of the ventricular filling. I'm not gonna go through all the steps, and just because it's definitely gonna get boring, guys. Step 3 is the beginning of the ventricular systole and contraction and isovolumetric contraction. What does that mean? Those are big words. For preschoolers, that just means that it is the ventricles are about to contract, all right? And they're going to contract at the same time, all right? They want to contract at the same time. All right, step number 4, the end of the ventricular systole and ejection towards the end of ventricular ejection. Okay, all right. Step number 5, ventricular diastole and the relax and equal relaxation of both ventricles. I'm not going to say isovolumetric, like what the fuck. And now step number 5, and then it just goes back to step 1, and it's in a circle like this. So, cardiac cycle resumed, I believe, in 5 to 7 minutes. And then we go into some key concepts. So, what is the heart rate? Heart rates are the number of beats calculated within a minute. The normal being between 60 to 100, and oh my god, I shit you not, for some reason, the teacher, since they want us to take the McKinley word for word, he wants us to go between 60 to 95. That's the normal in the McKinley. And in actually the recent McKinley, how to fuck up with students, how to fuck students up. Factors influencing the cardiac frequency. So chronotropic events and inode. No. Positive chronotropic events and negative chronotropic events. You also got stimulants, And actually no, they are they are chronotropic. What the fuck am I saying? Okay, what is this? What does my guy say? Oh shit, brain bridge reflex. Okay, I would not have guessed that. This is a nice refresher. What is the brain bridge reflex? It is an increase of the heart rate in response of an increase of the pressure of a distension in your atriums, of actually more specifically in the right atrium. The left precharge or venous return or PVC. Wait, what? Wait. Okay, my guy wrote this in French actually. So, réflexe brain bridge, une augmentation de la fréquence cardiaque en réponse d'une augmentation de la pression de l'oreillette droite. Précharge gauche ou retour veineux ou PVC. My guy, you're specifically targeting the right atrium. However, in parentheses, you put left precharge. I think it's right precharge. However you want to put it. Or venous return or PVC. But PVC actually is in the right side if you remember correctly. So I think he made a mistake here. Okay. Because venous return happens on the right side. Okay. All right. Next page. We're almost done. I'm telling you, these are like quick ass notes that have been taken very delicately in preparation for this exam. And I'm correcting my guy right now. All right. So, other factors. So there's the brain bridge reflex. So the brain bridge reflex, from what I can understand, is if your right side of the heart, because of the precharge, is so distended, it has to like push it, right? So whatever comes in has to come out, right? And that makes it that your cardiac heart rate increases. I'm gonna have to confirm it with my guy, but whatever. And then I indeed said positive chronotropes and negative chronotropes. So positive chronotropes are anything that increases your cardiac heart rate. Could be drugs. Actually, it's most of the time it's drugs. Or I don't want to feel dumb, guys. I don't want to feel dumb. I don't want to say that adrenaline is an endocrine. Okay, anyways, I know it's catecholamines or catecholamines, but I don't want to say that it's an endocrine hormone. I don't want to feel stupid, but that is also a positive chronotropic factor, right? Because your heart rate increases, right? Yeah, mostly drugs. Negative chronotropic or negative chronotropes. I guess acetylcholine would be an example off the top of my head. I'm just basically thinking off the top of my head. But also, again, drugs influence that. So we don't have to name a few of the drugs yet. I'm a first year nursing student. Okay. Cardiac output is the next in line. It's the DC. Okay. Cardiac output. I think in English it's the cardiac output. Anyways, débit cardiaque is in French. Débit meaning a volume. Actually, no. Débit, well, a volume that is ejected over time. a volume of blood that is ejected over time. A definition is indeed a volume of blood ejected with each contraction per minute. Okay, per each beat per minute. Okay, the volume of blood ejected per each beat per minute. Okay, excellent. Volume de sang éjecté par battement par minute. Excellent. The formula is your cardiac output. I hope it's cardiac output. You know what? I'm gonna Google it right now. I'm gonna chat. I'm gonna Google it right now. I can't believe I have to Google cardiac output, guys. Okay, let's go on Google and write in English to French. Okay, English to French. Sorry. Débit cardiac. Cardiac output, guys. It's cardiac output. I'm a very good translator. Like, bro, chat, I could be a fucking amazing translator. With that being said, the formula is cardiac output equals your heart rate times your ejection volume, right? Or ejection fraction, right? Your systolic ejection volume, which is measured in liters per minute, in parentheses, and your cardiac output is in BPM, so beats per minute. Okay? With that being said, cardiac output is proportional to your heart rate and okay, all right, so pretty self-explanatory. Both of them are proportional to each other. And the normal is 5 liters for the adults. I am going to remain with what I learned. Actually, just for the purpose of this class, I am going to remain with 5 liters per minute for the adult. However, it varies between sex, between height, and I guess with the age. But what I'm trying to go to, where I'm trying to get to, is that the way I learned it, based on the sex, on the age, on the height, and all of these genetic factors, it is between 4 to 8 liters. Between 4 to 8 liters per minute on the adult side. Okay, so for the purpose of this class, they want us to learn 5 liters per minute is the normal cardiac output, is the range of the normal cardiac output towards the adult. Arterial tension? Hypertension? No. Blood pressure. There we go. That's the English word. Blood pressure. Systolic pressure is your pressure at its highest, and diastolic is your pressure at its lowest. That is pretty self-explanatory. That's what we know. And the formula is your cardiac output times your peripheral résistance vasculaire périphérique. So peripheral vascular resistances. So times the resistance of your blood vessels in the systemic circulation equals your blood pressure. Okay? All right, cool. We're getting there. That's quick maths, guys. 3 quick maths that you've got to know. All right, my man. Centers that are influencing the blood pressure. So, cardiac, there's two of them. Cardio accelerating center, and the cardiac center, my guy forgot to precise where it is found. If I'm not mistaken, guys, it is found, your cardiac center is found in the medulla, okay? La moelle allongée. How do you say moelle allongée? Le bulbe rachidien. So bulbe rachidien would be the equivalent of medulla oblongata. So found it is in the let me just see. Bulbe rachidien. So cardio accelerating center. Okay. Cardio accelerating center is takes care of inotropic factors and positive chronotropes. Cardio inhibitor takes care of inotropic factors and negative chronotrope factors. Okay, so cardio accelerator, obviously, you know what they do, and cardio inhibitor. Both of them influence the cardiac output, which is proportional with the blood pressure. Okay, good. So your blood pressure should be proportional to cardiac output. Okay, and your cardiac output gets influenced by your cardio accelerator and cardio inhibitor. Okay, so that was the cardiac center. The vasomotor center, again, specific. I'm not going to say specifically where in the medulla. Actually, I should, because in the medulla you have the pons. You got the pons, you got the midbrain and stuff like that. Oh yeah. In French, they just call it la moelle allongée, bro. So I'm just gonna say bulbe rachidien. And this is supposed to be like a study session, so don't take. So please, with all due respect, don't take everything at heart. If I do mistakes, please correct me, chat. Or please help me study. Please help me study. Can chat actually prep me to get a good grade? Let's see if that's gonna happen. Vasomotor centers includes alpha 1 receptors, which are vasoconstrictors, and beta 2, which are vasodilators. Control vascular tonus. Aha! The cerebral trunk, or I think, yeah, bulbe rachidien, moelle allongée, it's probably like the same thing. Then we got baroreceptors. Excellent. Detect changes with the stretching of vascular peripheries, send signals to the midbrain. Not the mid. I have to stop calling it midbrain. The medulla. You guys think I'm having a stroke every time I take a sip? The monkey's basically having a stroke on stream, guys. Not that it's actually happening. What is new? Okay, fine. Chemoreceptors detect changes chemically in the blood via changes in the pH or changes of the blood pressure to assure chemical equilibrium in the blood. And then you got the superior cerebral centers. So now we're talking about the brain itself. So the actual like brain structure itself. In French, it's encéphale, guys. Like again, please stop it, guys. It's not funny. I'm trying to translate this literally out of my mind. So these guys regulate three things. If there is an increase of temperature, and this is what it says, increase in temperature stimulates the hypothalamus to increase the cardiac output and vascular peripheral resistance via nervous connections with the cardiovascular center. Then you got your fight or flight your fight or flight system, your fight or flight mechanic, actually, where the hypothalamus stimulates again the hypothalamus to increase the cardiac output and peripheral vascular resistance via the nervous connections with the cardiovascular center. So it sends signals. So from what I can see, hypothalamus sends signals towards your centers, your cardiac centers, cardiovascular centers, I'm sorry, and then produces these effects. So, and then finally we got the limbic system, which is like your emotional stuff, which reacts to anxiety, emotions, or a potential danger, whether real or subjective danger, which increases the blood pressure by affecting the cardiovascular center. All right, so now finally we get to the bread and butter. There was actually a question, a lot of question surrounding prep material for this exam. So, and one of this we had a case study, and most of the case study was on the fact that do these things happen when we're doing exercise. So this is at the part we're at, and the question immediately asks, why does the blood pressure increase with exercise? So my guy Broski wrote, and I quote him, when doing exercise, metabolic needs in O2 and nutrients increase. Okay. In order to increase the transport in O2, a compensatory mechanism gets activated, which increases the not the cardiac output, I got cardiac output in my mind. Kind of just my short-term memory is not working, guys. The heart rate, which increases the heart rate, and proportionally, because we know because of the calculation, the cardiac output. Since the blood pressure equals cardiac output times pulmonary vascular resistance, if the cardiac output increases, the blood pressure increases. Moreover, factors such as stress during exercise, the fact that you're stimulating your sympathetic side of your nervous system, secretes adrenaline, which causes a peripheral vasoconstriction, further increases peripheral vascular resistance, and increases cardiac output, and in consequence, the blood pressure. All right, guys. Very self-explanatory, very short and sweet, and very well thought out. We could go really deep into that, but I think with what we kind of just went through, explaining cardiac output, explaining blood pressure, and explaining the centers that regulate this system specifically, we are good to go, guys. Okay, next up, physiological mechanism, okay, which explain the increase of the heart rate, and respiratory rate. So all of these mechanisms, we're going to try to explain them in this next paragraph. The decrease of appetite, trouble sleeping, and the sensation of why you get cold hands and cold feet in these situations. So we're going to try to explain all of these systems. So stimulation of the hypothalamus, which again is regular, so basically your sympathetic nervous system stimulates the hypothalamus. The stimulation of the medulla, uh, the renal medulla, the subrenal medulla, cortisol and adrenaline plus noradrenaline secretions, catecholamines, all right, increases the heart rate, vasoconstriction peripherally, pulmonary vasodilation, and central, bronchodilation as well, increase in glycemia via cortisol. Cortisol stays increased, which equals a cognitive hyperreactivity, which contributes to troubles with your sleeping mechanics. And then finally, decrease of the digestive function with the effects of catecholamines. Why? And actually, I'm going to go a little bit step further. I'm going to help bro out. I'm going to say, why does the decrease of digestive function occurs? Because of your catecholamines. So you got to remember, your stomach is hypervascularized. Okay, hypervascularized means that there's so many blood vessels going to innervate the stomach, the intestines, and all of that digestive system. So your catecholamines, if you remember, what do they do? Those guys, some of them are inotropic, some of them are chronotropic, some of them are vasoconstrictors. Specifically, the vasoconstriction part will go and stimulate all of those blood vessels in the digestive tract and cause them to vasoconstrict. So what happens when you vasoconstrict? Well, you can't exchange nutrients anymore into the systemic circulation. You can't do that anymore. You can't, even if there's food, you've digested, the food is probably like halfway through or whatever. It's not going to stimulate your stomach to do its thing, all right? Because you're vasoconstricting, all right? So you're not going to favor that metabolic pathway. So that is what I'm going to add over here. So, effet de catécholamine qui vasoconstricte les vaisseaux qui innervent le système digestif. Okay, there we go. So which mechanism is responsible of the variation of the heart rate in an athlete? So in parentheses, Brodsky wrote a bradycardia at rest, which increases when there is physical activity. Interesting question. And again, these questions are all like the questions that were in the prep material and in his homeworks for these systems. So athlete's heart. Brodsky wrote myocytes. Cardiac myocytes are hypertrophied. What does that mean? So since the cardiac muscle is a muscle, and when you train it, it hypertrophies, so it increases. It becomes bigger. Leads to better contractility. All right. Plus, ventricular chambers are more large. Thus, a greater amount of volume per beat and force of contraction is increased. Therefore, the body adapts and decreases its heart rate in order to maintain a good cardiac output, a normal cardiac output actually, and not increased because of muscular changes. Okay, I don't understand the last sentence, but up until maintaining a good cardiac output, a normal cardiac output, that was good. I will add a little bit further and say Starling's law. Starling's law. And what does that do? So this is specifically what Starling law is all about. So whatever comes in, basically, in order to make a whole, not to get really philosophical, whatever comes in has to come out. Whatever quantity of liquid comes into something that's in a pressurized system has to come out. Okay. And Starling basically applies, and now we're getting into the philosophical part. So strap on. Starling basically said, well, since the heart is a pressurized system, which changes with all due respect, well, the same thing occurs. So since when you're doing physical activity, you are increasing your blood pressure. Therefore, because of two mechanisms, the heart rate, your cardiac output and your peripheral vascular resistance, you're bringing more volume towards the heart. That volume cannot remain in the heart. It has to come out. Therefore, you are training your heart to contract. The more you train your heart, the more you train your muscle, the more bigger it gets, the more efficient it becomes at contracting and at ejecting the liquid out of your heart. So that is Starling's law. And that is why you get that bradycardia at rest, and that's why tachycardia goes when you're doing exercise. So, pertinent evaluation for the cardiovascular system, PQRSTU of the vascular symptom. You're ample as well for the vascular system. Vital signs, évaluation cardiovasculaire, inspection, palpation, et auscultation. Inspection, palpation, and auscultation. And then finally, we finish up with the EKG strips. EKG strips are pretty fine. He just wants us to analyze a normal PQRST wave on the line. So as long as I speak about isoelectric activity on the baseline, P wave represents the contraction. Your QRS, the complex itself, represents a systole itself of the ventricle, and then finally the relaxation, the repolarization of the ventricles is when the relaxation occurs. All right, so we finished the vascular system. Took us about a good 40 something minutes to do. That's good though, because I have content for like 2 hours. I still have an hour and something left. Oh my goodness. Gotta stay hydrated, guys. Gotta stay hydrated on sugar. We're moving on to the digestive system. Digestive system is pretty much one paper that Broski, actually two papers, but Broski, like I made it, I printed my paper on front and back. So it's only one paper that I have. So hopefully it's gonna last like 15 minutes. So I can separate my content into 1 hour and 1 hour bits. Okay, moving on. Okay. Digestive system. It has three functions. When we're talking about the digestive system that are separated into phases. So, which are cephalic phase, digestion phase, gastric phase, and finally intestinal phase. Cephalic phase, from what I remember, because I also looked at my boy Ninja Nerd, who I kind of reviewed his newer content about the digestive system. However, I didn't pay too much attention because I had to look at my study paper in order to kind of see what I wanted to do. Anyways, um, so cephalic phase is everything emotional, everything sensory regarding food. So I'm preparing to eat food. Okay, so what does that mean? I see, I smell, I see and I smell basically, which stimulates already I wouldn't say receptors, but glands. So my brain actually stimulates glands that are within the vicinity of my mouth to secrete saliva. And what do we find in saliva? Amylase, guys. So that's happening. It's also preparing the stomach as well with a bunch of hydrochloric acid and pepsin as well. It's preparing it. Because it knows, my body knows that I'm about to eat. I'm about to take in nutrients, and uh, send them down towards the stomach. So that is in preparation. Gastric phase is essentially the moment that the food has entered my mouth, has passed, um, has passed uh, the the oropharynx, and it is now in the esophagus. And from the esophagus has descended into the stomach. Um, a few things to remember here. This is where the degradation of food begins by either chemical degradation or mechanical degradation. So chewing, the action of chewing in order to make a bowl or a bolus, a bowl, let's call it a bowl. That little lump of food that I'm making, when I swallow, that is mechanical. The action of chewing with the teeth is mechanical. Chemical would be the saliva, the saliva which contains salivary amylase in order to already start lubricating it, and also start the contents in order to break down the food as well inside of the mouth. So that kind of just happens. Once I send it into the esophagus, peristaltism happens, which is mechanical as well, so that you can send it towards the stomach. And once it's inside the stomach, that is where digestion gets a lot wackier. Um, Again, remember those hydrochloric acid and pepsin molecules, but they go and degrade the food. They degrade the food into much more bits and pieces. So they degrade the food in terms of lipids. They degrade the food in terms of proteins. They degrade it into sugars as well. That's what the body needs. That's what it wants to intake. And then once that's done, once it hits outside of the stomach, it will then go, it has prepared everything it needed. It will then send that food out into your intestines, and that is where the absorption process will begin from all of that food that got degraded into, again, lipids, proteins, and glucose. However, one part of your digestive tract um, where absorption does not occur, it is the colon. So the big intestines, the large intestines, that's where it doesn't occur. Let's see if I got that right. So Broski wrote, cephalic space is everything that's a stimulus. All right. Oh, the thought. I forgot the thought of food. Odor, thought, the scent, and the smell, and the taste, the taste of food. Which is controlled by the cerebral cortex, which stimulates the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus stimulates the medulla, which stimulates the vagus nerve, increases the contraction of the musculeuse, and this one is the musculeuse is actually in the stomach. So this is at the stomach level, plus secretion de muqueuse de l'estomac. However, you also plus plus salivation. I'm pretty sure it is in the cephalic phase. Okay, gastric phase is so gastric phase apparently in the McKinley, and according to my broski, is triggered by the presence of food in the stomach. So mechanoreceptors perceive the stretch in the stomach. Chemoreceptor perceive the alkaline contents in the stomach, which send a signal to the vagus nerve towards the medulla, and the medulla increases its signals towards the stomach, afferent signals, to cause muscular contractions. Sorry, efferent sorry. Yeah. Which will secrete more gastric contents, so more hydrochloric acid from the stomach, and with the and also, so this one I saw in Ninja Nerd, hydrochloric acid kind of just converts what was I gonna say? It will convert the pepsin into pepsinogen. So plus pepsinogen, salivation plus encore de la pepsin, an increase in pepsin, because also pepsin is also increased in the cephalic phase because you're preparing in order to ingest food. Intestinal phase triggered when the chyme enters the moment it enters the duodenum. So chemoreceptors perceive the acidity of the chyme at the level of the duodenum, decreases its signals of the chemoreceptor towards the medulla. The medulla will then decrease its contraction in the stomach and the decrease of the secretions of the gastric contents. CCK, I'll have to text bro to know what the fuck does CCK mean. Liberation of CCK plus secretion decreases of contraction of the musculus and secretion of gastric contents. A few of the definition that broski goes into. Glycogen is a reserve of glucose in the tissues. Okay, glycogenesis is the stocking of glucose in the tissues via insulin. Glycogenolysis is the degradation of glycogen into glucose by the glucagon. Neoglucogenesis is the production of glucose from fatty acids, glycerol, lactate, and proteins. Lipogenesis is the stocking of triglycerides from fatty acids and glycerol. Lipolysis is the degradation of these triglycerides in fatty acids and glycerol. Degradation of protein is degradation of the protein for energy. It happens when you're deep down in need of fucking energy, guys. Glucagon stimulates glycogenolysis. Neoglycogenesis. Lipolysis, in order to maintain a good concentration of glycemia. And then insulin decreases glycemia. Okay, good. Excellent.
Hey guys, thank you very much for watching the whole content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to catch it live, come on twitch.tv/MajinP, that's MAJINP. NNP. I appreciate the support this channel has been getting, which is making it growing bigger and bigger. So please take the time to like, subscribe, and share, and all of that fun stuff. I'm always here trying to get up there, so if you want to support your boy, you know what to do. Thank you very much again for watching, and peace out.